So your main complaint is that you didn't see this coming. Really, you're upset because you were caught off guard. People are salty about this episode because they couldn't take a hint. If you had just bothered to pay attention, you would already suspect that APE were not what they seemed. WTF is going on? It's you not paying attention. Phenom, you're a dumbass. It was really obvious they were aliens.
But this does raise the question on who or what these APE members were before or even if they ever had physical bodies to begin with. Since there are human members that refer to them as a separate entity, it's almost like they're just straight up aliens. Anyways, ignoring that, elaborating that these people have no origin only reinforces the theory I posed last week, that the APE members maybe are just straight up aliens who came to this world seeking something more. Looks like the only thing people weren't paying attention to were my reviews, am I right, fellas? Oh, a few days ago I made a video ranting about the numerous issues that I found in Darling in the Franxx episode 20. And as expected, a lot of you did not like that and were quick to jump to its defense. So I'm here to jump to my own defense in regards to a lot of the harassment and criticism my video received. I have a lot I want to say in this video, both on a constructive level and on a personal level, so I hope you stay till the end, but without further ado, let's get into it. The biggest counter I saw tossed at me, often in really insulting ways, is that the big twist was foreshadowed. APE have been hinted at to be aliens, and the plot twist was a completely natural evolution of the story. And I just have to say that this is the most baffling statement that I saw tossed around throughout the entire comment section, because despite professing this adamantly and continuously saying that I wasn't paying attention, or saying that I'm too stupid to understand the intricate and subtle storytelling / build-up that the show was planting throughout the series, not one single person gave me a single piece of valid foreshadowing that hinted towards aliens. Not one that I read. I say valid because people did try their best to give moments in which they thought there was foreshadowing, and while it's easy to look back at these moments now and say that they had it all figured out, I'm going to talk about why none of it resonated with me and why it could have been done much better. Before I talk about that though, I think the absolute dumbest excuse / defense that I've heard for the aliens plot twist was its trigger. Trigger's making it so it was expected. I legit cannot make this shit up. People have told me that since it's Trigger, I should have expected aliens and that there was no issue with this plot development. And I have to ask you guys, how low have our standards fallen when a studio's previous works is being used as a legitimate equivalent to actual narrative buildup and foreshadowing? I wasn't watching this series thinking, okay, it's Trigger, so there will probably be some crazy twist, thus they don't have to build it up whatsoever since I'm expecting it, because that just makes no sense, my dudes. Just because they've worked on that stuff in the past does not excuse them from actually having to build up these plot events. Now that we got the stupid reasoning out of the way, let's talk about this idea of build-up and foreshadowing, and some of the specific examples people gave as to how the aliens were hinted at before this reveal. Again, I want to start with the dumbest example I saw just to get it out of the way. APE's headquarters are in space. Why else would it be in space if they weren't aliens? I don't know, man. It's almost like this is a futuristic setting with giant moving plantations, magma-hungry Dinobots, and sex-powered mechs. Having an orbiting headquarters in space in this kind of setting would not be at all surprising for evil dictators, whether they were aliens or not. Please stop using this as a reasoning. Another hint I saw people protest was how in episode 19, Dr. Franxx talks about how mysteriously APE appeared in society out of nowhere, with no origin or nationality, and began climbing their way up, scheming and gaining control of things one by one. You even saw me throw around my own speculation in regards to this scene at the beginning of the video. So why is it not foreshadowing? And why do I have an issue with the twist if I was reaching these same conclusions myself? Well, the issue lies in that they weren't conclusions, and I am able to distinguish that my own baseless predictions are not an equivalent or a supplement for actual actual setup or significant hinting. And to illustrate my point, I have to ask you, why is APE appearing mysteriously in society specific to aliens? Why couldn't this be an underground organization or a mysterious entity from our own planet instead? The problem is that nothing hinted at is specifically indicative of aliens. And yeah, when you look back on it now, it's easy to say, oh my god, they were hinting aliens the whole time! But they weren't. They just weren't. The only thing it ever clearly points to is APE mysterious, APE has secret. As to what that secret was, still could have been a multitude of things at this point. This same principle applies to people using the end of episode 17 as a hint as well. You'll recall in one of the final scenes in which 2 APE messengers were sent to talk to the Klaxosaur princess. One of them was revealed to not have a body, and the princess refers to him as a human wannabe. A lot of people toss this up as the clearest example of APE being aliens, but I couldn't disagree more. Again, it's so easy to look back at these scenes now and say that they were building it up, but the truth is that at this moment, this APE member not having a body and the Klaxosaur princess referring to him as a human wannabe could have been the result of any number of things. My speculations were ranging anywhere from using technology to store their souls somewhere else, to that they were holographic entities being controlled by someone else. And I'll tell you right now that when the amount of possibilities still range over that many things, it is not meaningful or significant foreshadowing pointing to any one thing. I'll actually say that the biggest example of hinting that I saw to aliens was in episode 18, during another meeting between the APE Council, where you start to realize that there's a contrast between the regular human members and the founders of APE who are promising the humans the ability to escape their bodies. This is when I started throwing around guesses about aliens, and it's because there's a distinction between the two sides and some kind of special power at play. However, I say biggest example lightly because this still doesn't indicate much of anything regarding the true origins of APE, where they came from, or what they actually are, meaning that my guesses about holograms being controlled by someone else or soul-binding technology easily could have been true as well. And this is where we get into the crux of the issue. Aliens were just not meaningfully foreshadowed in any way. All of the examples I gave were hints that never really pointed in any one direction. They could have led to any number of things and still made just as much sense, which makes looking at this reveal, something that should have been a crazy and satisfying revelation, just really pointless and dumb in the context of the story, which essentially sums up my thoughts on this entire episode in relation to the story as a whole. Dumb and pointless in context. When I look at all of this out of context, I think an alien reveal definitely could have been built up meaningfully throughout the story and had a much better reveal while still thematically fitting within the narrative arc. A lot of you guys used Gurren Lagann as an example, saying that it pulled the aliens card and is still considered a masterpiece. And I'm gonna tell you right now why it works in that series and why it doesn't here. For one, Gurren Lagann is a much less grounded series than Darling in the Franxx. It doesn't take itself seriously, which means they can get away with introducing plot elements like that and having it fit within the boundaries of the series. Because I mean, there are no boundaries, that's kind of the show's motto. And two, even despite all that, the alien reveal is still hinted and doled out over the course of several episodes, and the reveal is still much earlier than Darling decided to do it, which gave them more room to work with for the finale. And the best part is that it all has significant and meaningful tie-ins with episodes ranging all the way back to even episode 1. It clicks, it's satisfying, and most of all, it's not rushed to oblivion. Which is one thing I wanted to comment on. I'm glad that even the people who disagreed with me could admit that the episode was rushed, even if it didn't ruin their enjoyment. Because above everything, above the lack of meaningful foreshadowing, above how poor the exposition was told, the pacing throughout the episode was definitely the single biggest detractor to what they had done with the story. Having these poorly set up plot elements is one thing, but rushing through all of them in a single episode and ending with an invasion from an enemy we hadn't even heard of before this point is just incredibly jarring and amplifies all the problems I listed before tenfold. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that if these reveals were spread out over multiple episodes, episodes, the twist could have had at least some semblance of build-up, and by extension could have potentially worked, at least much better than it did here. Which brings me to the end of my defense. I saw some other defenders say that the show was intentionally keeping us in the dark, or that since we're viewing it from the children's point of view, it's supposed to be baffling and out of nowhere. Which I guess mission accomplished if that's what they were going for, but it certainly doesn't make for a satisfying plot twist or good storytelling. And I find it ironic that if the show is trying to keep us as an audience in the dark, that they'd also in the very same episode so lazily have Dr. Franxx and the Klaxosaur Princess give us minutes worth of exposition just telling us every single detail about the story. If we were in the dark before, then that would be the equivalent of pulling open the curtains at 7 in the morning. However, the people I really want to shout out are the ones who disagreed with me but still respected my opinion and acted maturely in the comments, or the ones who acknowledged the flaws I pointed out but still said, you know what? I'm still loving the series and nothing's really going to change my mind. That is perfectly fine, and you guys are awesome. For the ones who told me I wasn't paying attention or undermined my opinion and acted like I was an idiot, I have analyzed every single point you guys have mentioned in previous videos. I have invested hundreds of hours into covering Darling as a series on my channel, and I have spent even more of that talking with a lot of you about it in the comments. I'm just doing my best out here to be real about my opinions because I don't want to lie about liking something when I really just didn't. And I have to reiterate that I do not look down on anyone for enjoying this episode, because enjoying something is always more fun than not enjoying it. And these people who act like there's such thing as objective quality or taste or opinions are flat out wrong. Everyone values different things, and I'm just one person expressing my own opinions. Hopefully we can create a much more positive atmosphere around this whole situation, because a lot of you are people I enjoy talking to or are even just straight up friends, and dealing with all of the backlash has been both hurtful and stressful. I appreciate you all for watching my videos and giving your input. It is just so humbling that you guys care about my thoughts and opinions on this series. I will be here tomorrow to give my thoughts on the episode as usual, whether they be good or bad, and I look forward to hearing what you all think as well. If you enjoyed anything I said here, or even if you just still love me despite our disagreements, I would really appreciate it if you liked the video, and make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my Darling coverage and other content in the future. And of course, as usual, have a great day.